Fluffy Jimin falls asleep with tears that have not dried. Jungkook's touch reveals a long-locked longing raincloud. Broken heart, why did you come back, Jungkook? Jimin's voice cracked like glass beneath the weight of old wounds as blood shimmered at the corner of his trembling lips. Rain pounded the rooftop in sync with his shallow breaths. The dance studio was supposed to be empty tonight. The mirrors reflected shadows, not movement. Yet here they were, two silhouettes suspended in time, drenched in memory and moonlight. Jungkook stood frozen in the doorway, his hand still hovering where he had just touched Jimin's bare shoulder. The fabric of his shirt hung loose, collarbones exposed, skin marked not by bruises but by the rawness of unspoken truths. I never stopped searching, Jungkook said finally, his voice low, thick with something between guilt and yearning. Jimin staggered back as if struck. Not from the words, but from the flood they unleashed inside him. He wasn't ready for this. Not now. Not after years spent stitching himself back together after Jungkook's disappearance. The studio, with its high ceilings and cold walls, became a theater of ghosts. Earlier that day, Jimin had performed alone an improvised routine as dusk faded, fueled by restlessness and a silent ache he couldn't name. Each pirouette had been a cry. Each leap, a wound opening. When he collapsed in a heap on the floor, the pain wasn't from the physical strain. It was something older. Deeper. He hadn't noticed Jungkook watching now, face to face. That ache had a name. And it was standing right in front of him, dripping rainwater onto the polished floor like some fevered vision conjured from heartbreak. You left, Jimin said, his voice brittle. You vanished without a word. Do you know what that did to me? Jungkook stepped forward, cautiously, like approaching a wounded animal. I thought I was protecting you, he said. Jimin let out a dry, bitter laugh. You think disappearing protects people? That silence is mercy. There was a beat of silence. A storm inside the silence. I was broken, Jungkook whispered. And I thought I'd break you too. Jimin's body sagged, as if those words pulled something from his spine. He sat down, cross-legged on the floor, like a boy too tired to fight ghosts anymore. Too late, he said. You already did. The smell of rain and dust hung in the air. Somewhere outside, a siren wailed. Inside, time stood still. Jungkook walked to the mirrored wall, not daring to sit beside him yet. He looked at their reflections. What he saw wasn't just age or time. It was grief. I wanted to come back so many times, he said. But every time I got close, I remembered the look in your eyes the day I left. Jimin didn't look up. And today? What changed? You cried while you danced. Jimin flinched. You moved like your soul was tearing itself out, Jungkook continued, quietly. And I knew it was still me in there. Somewhere. At last, Jimin looked at him. His eyes were swollen. His cheeks still wet. His body still shook faintly from exhaustion. He looked like someone who hadn't truly slept in years. Do you think you can just walk in and fix this? He asked. No, Jungkook said. I came to bleed with you. For a long moment, neither spoke. Just the rain. Just the echoes of music that still clung to the studio's walls. Then Jimin slowly laid down on the floor, curling slightly on his side, as if surrendering not to Jungkook, but to the weight he'd carried alone for too long. He didn't ask him to leave. That, in itself, was something. Jungkook sat near him, close but not touching, and when Jimin's breathing slowed, when the last of the tears had dried halfway across his cheek, Jungkook reached out, barely grazing his fingertips across Jimin's hand. Not a touch of possession. But recognition. Like two pieces of the same story, separated by silence, finally whispering back to each other. The storm raged on outside, but inside that studio, something fragile had begun to breathe again. You kissed him? Jimin's voice sliced through the silence, low and razor-sharp. Jungkook blinked. He had been unprepared for the question, even less for the accusation hiding behind it. It was a mistake, he said. Jimin laughed, but there was no humor in it, just venom and exhaustion. That's what they all say. It was a mistake. Just like leaving me was a mistake. Just like loving me was a mistake. Jungkook stood, fists clenched at his sides, the fluorescent lights above flickering slightly, casting shadows across his tense jaw. Don't put words in my mouth, Jimin. Oh, forgive me, Jimin snapped, standing as well. I must have misunderstood when you disappeared from my life and showed up years later like a ghost, whispering apologies and watching me cry through glass. You think I didn't cry too? Jungkook stepped closer, a storm brewing behind his eyes. You think I didn't tear myself apart every damn night? You think I don't still wake up with your name on my tongue? Jimin flinched. You don't get to say that. I need to say it, Jungkook hissed. Because if I don't, this will eat me alive. Just like it's eating you. For a moment, neither of them moved. Two bodies on the verge of combustion. The studio, with its cracked mirrors and old ballet bars, became a war zone of breath and silence. Then Jimin turned away, arms crossed tightly over his chest, shoulders rigid. Why did you kiss him? He asked again. Softer this time. Deadlier. Jungkook's voice dropped. Because he wasn't you. And I was trying to forget. There was a pause. Did it work? Jungkook shook his head. No. It made me remember everything. How your breath caught when I touched your waist. How your body moved in sync with mine, like we shared the same heartbeat. How your laugh could tear the sky open. Jimin exhaled shakily. His back still to him. And yet, you ran. Jungkook stepped forward. Because I loved you so much it scared me. Because I knew I wasn't enough for you. Not then. Maybe not now. He was close enough to touch him now. But he didn't. He wouldn't, unless Jimin asked. You're still not, Jimin whispered. But I hate how much I want you to be. That admission shattered something between them. Jungkook moved instinctively. Not to kiss him. But to take his hand. Jimin didn't stop him, their fingers intertwined with a kind of ache that only comes from years of silence and unresolved nights. Hands that once molded choreography now trembled from the simple act of contact. Tell me everything, Jimin said, voice raw. All of it. No more secrets. If you lie to me again, even by omission, I swear I'll walk away and never look back. Jungkook nodded, his voice steady but low. I was supposed to go to Japan for a 3-month training program. You remember? Jimin nodded once. It wasn't just dance, Jungkook continued. It was therapy. My parents arranged it. They thought I was losing control. You were, Jimin said, a bitter softness in his tone. Jungkook didn't deny it. I was spiraling. The panic attacks got worse. The night I left you, I didn't sleep. I just watched you. Curled beside me. And I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was drowning in my own love for you. Like if I stayed, I'd ruin you. Jimin blinked, but said nothing. His throat bobbed, and the therapist, Jungkook continued, suggested cutting off contact entirely. For clarity. For healing. I fought it. But eventually, I did it. I broke it off. Disappeared. I hated myself every minute. Jimin pulled his hand away. You don't get to ask for forgiveness just because you bled, he said. I bled too. Alone. You made me believe I wasn't worth fighting for. I am fighting now, Jungkook pleaded. I came back to fight. Well, you're late, Jimin said, stepping away. Time didn't pause just because you did. My life moved. I moved. Are you in love with him? Jungkook asked. Suddenly Jimin turned. What? Him. Taehyung. Are you in love with him? The silence was thunderous. Jimin narrowed his eyes. What if I am? Jungkook's breath caught. His chest heaved once. Then I'll wait, he said. I'll wait until your heart forgets him. Or remembers me better. Jimin's jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists. You arrogant bastard. But his voice cracked on the last word. Jungkook took a step forward. Then tell me to leave. I already did, Jimin said. And you stayed. Lightning flashed outside, briefly illuminating their faces like a spotlight in a tragedy. And in that moment, both of them saw it, the glimmer of hope tangled in grief. Later that night, Jimin lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling as memories pulsed like open wounds. The way Jungkook used to trace his spine with idle fingers. The way he whispered lyrics into his neck. The way he had made silence feel like poetry, not punishment. And somewhere, just down the hall, Jungkook sat in the guest room, fully clothed, unable to sleep. Holding a photo he thought he'd burned. A candid shot of Jimin in rehearsal, laughing, wind in his hair. Neither of them slept, because dreams were safer than reality, but the truth had already been spoken. The wounds reopened and nothing would ever be the same again. You lied again. Jimin's voice echoed through the rehearsal hall like the snap of a bone breaking clean. He held his phone tightly, his fingers trembling as he tossed it toward Jungkook. It skidded across the floor and stopped inches from his feet. The screen still glowed, an article open, fresh, damning. Rising star Kim Jungkook spotted leaving hotel with agency CEO's son, exclusively reported by Dispatch. Jimin quoted, eyes sharp, glassy. Jungkook didn't flinch. He bent slowly, picked up the phone, and stared at the headline. His face remained unreadable. A mask he had perfected. It's not what you think, he said flatly. Oh? Then tell me, Jimin snapped. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been fucking your way back into the spotlight. That's not fair. Fair? Jimin laughed bitterly. You came back into my life like a damn avalanche, tearing through everything I rebuilt, and now I find this. Another secret. Another deception. I'm not sleeping with him, Jungkook said, voice rising, jaw clenched. Then what were you doing at his hotel at 3 a.m.? Singing him lullabies? Jungkook stepped forward. Negotiating. He offered me a position, creative director for his new label. I was thinking about a future that doesn't make me feel like I'm drowning. One that maybe includes you. I don't need your charity, Jimin said through gritted teeth. And I sure as hell don't want to be anyone's afterthought. You're not, goddammit, Jimin, you never were. You were always it. The endgame. The reason. Then why didn't you tell me? Jimin's voice cracked, the fury collapsing into something quieter, something infinitely more dangerous. You told me no more secrets. I didn't know how, Jungkook said, his voice rough now, raw. I was afraid you'd think I was using you. That I was trying to leverage you. Jimin stepped back, slowly, like each step cost him a piece of himself. You already are, he whispered. By being here. The silence that followed wasn't calm. It was suffocating. A silence born not of peace but of devastation. Jungkook moved to speak but froze when the door behind them creaked open. Taehyung stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. He looked between them, then at the phone in Jungkook's hand, then at Jimin's face. There was no greeting. No warmth. Am I interrupting? He asked coldly. You always do, Jungkook muttered under his breath. Taehyung smiled without humor. That's funny. Because you're the ghost who doesn't stay buried. Jimin looked between them, his stomach twisting. You knew? He asked Taehyung, voice low. Taehyung's eyes softened briefly as he turned to Jimin. I saw them 2 nights ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to be that guy. You already are, Jungkook said. You've always wanted to be the hero. The savior. But you're not. And you're the villain dressed in nostalgia. Taehyung shot back. Enough. Jimin screamed, the sound splintering the tension like lightning through glass. Both men stared at him. You think this is about you two fighting over me like I'm some prize, he hissed. You think I want any of this? I wanted closure. I wanted peace. But all I get is drama and lies and posturing like this is some goddamn soap opera. Taehyung stepped forward. Jimin, he's not good for you. You don't get to decide that, Jimin said. You never did. Jungkook looked at Jimin then, a question behind his eyes. Do you still love him? He asked quietly. Taehyung's breath hitched. Jimin didn't answer immediately. He walked past both of them, slowly, deliberately, until he stood at the window. Rain was starting again, soft, mournful. I don't know what I feel, he finally said. Some days, I think I'm still in love with the memory of someone who never existed. Other days, I wonder if I've just gotten addicted to hurting. Jungkook walked up behind him. Then let me show you who I really am. No lies this time. Jimin turned. You don't get a clean slate. None of us do. I'm not asking for that, Jungkook said. I'm asking for a second ending. Taehyung watched them both, jaw tight, fists clenched. He's going to hurt you again, he said. That's what he does. It's all he knows. Maybe, Jimin said. But I need to find that out for myself. Later, Jimin stood in the rain outside the studio. Alone. He hadn't asked either of them to follow. His phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. The message read, You think Jungkook lied to you? You don't know half of it. Meet me tomorrow. I have proof. Attached, a photo. Jimin's eyes widened. The image showed Jungkook. Not with the CEO's son. But with someone else. A face Jimin knew. Someone who should have never been part of this. His fingers shook. He deleted the message, and stood there in the rain, head tilted back, eyes closed, letting it soak into him that he didn't know who to trust anymore. But one thing was certain, the past hadn't finished with him yet. The cafe was nearly empty, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the hiss of the espresso machine. A single table by the window, stained by the golden spill of morning light, held Jimin, hood pulled low, sunglasses still on. He looked out, not at the street, but at the reflection in the glass, at his own face, shadowed by doubt, fear, and a furious curiosity he could no longer suppress. The doorbell chimed. A figure walked in, confidence draped over him like an expensive coat. His presence was unmistakable. Namjoon. Jimin's blood ran cold. Namjoon had once been a mentor, a quiet supporter behind the curtain. He was also the last person Jimin expected to see tied up in this web. "You got my message," Namjoon said as he slid into the chair opposite him. "No pretense. No hello. You sent the photo," Jimin replied, removing his sunglasses. Namjoon nodded, folding his hands on the table. "He lied to you again." Jimin stared at him. "Tell me." Namjoon leaned in. "You remember Seokjin?" Jimin froze. Of course he remembered. The quiet choreographer who left the company 3 years ago under mysterious circumstances. The same one who had trained Jungkook personally. The same one Jimin once suspected had feelings for him, or perhaps for Jungkook. "He's been seeing Jungkook," Namjoon said flatly. "On and off. Since before he disappeared." Jimin's lips parted. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, as if the weight of every word might snap his ribs, he asked, "Are you telling me he left me for him?" "No," Namjoon said. "He left you for himself." But Seokjin was there. He didn't just vanish into therapy and silence. He went to him. Jimin's pulse thundered. "Why are you telling me this now?" Namjoon's smile was bitter. "Because you deserve the full truth. Not curated redemption arcs. Not half apologies. You deserve to decide what to do with all of it, not just the pieces Jungkook's willing to show you." "You hate him," Jimin said. "You always have." Namjoon's eyes flickered. "I don't hate him. I hate what he did to you." Jimin looked away, swallowing the burn rising in his throat. "I need to hear it from him," he said at last. "You won't get it," Namjoon warned. "He'll spin it. He's always been good at that. Just enough honesty to make you think you've heard everything." "I need to try," Jimin said, standing. Namjoon reached out, gently touching his wrist. "Don't let your love for who he was blind you to who he still might be." Jimin didn't answer. He left. By the time he reached the dance studio, his knuckles were white around his phone. He'd called Jungkook twice. No answer. A message came instead, at the old theater. "I needed space." The old theater. Of course. Jimin found him backstage, sitting on the edge of the wooden platform, feet dangling into the orchestra pit. Dust floated in shafts of fading afternoon light. It smelled of forgotten curtains and memory. Jungkook looked up as he approached. His expression softened. "I figured you'd come," he said quietly. "Then you knew?" Namjoon told me, Jimin replied, voice tight. Jungkook's silence was answer enough. "You slept with him," Jimin accused. "I did," Jungkook confessed. "But not during us. It was before. And after. Never during. You left me, and ran into his arms." Jimin's voice cracked. "You don't get to say you loved me and then fuck the man who taught you how to dance." "It wasn't love," Jungkook said, eyes steady. "It was grief. Guilt. Self-destruction. That's convenient. It's the truth." Jimin stood still. "Shaking all this time," he whispered. "You said it was about protecting me. About your mental health. About healing. But you weren't alone. You weren't rebuilding. You were just with someone else." "I was lost," Jungkook said. And he didn't ask questions. He didn't demand anything. He just existed. Jimin stepped forward, fury flashing. "And you let me rot in silence. You let me question every breath I took. I thought I broke you. I thought I killed something in you." "You didn't," Jungkook said. "I killed it myself." Jimin laughed bitterly. "Do you even know how much therapy I needed to believe I was still worth loving?" "I do," Jungkook said, softly. Because I needed just as much to forgive myself for leaving you. Jimin turned away, gripping the edge of the curtain. His breath stuttered. Do you still talk to him? He asked. Jungkook hesitated. No. I cut him off when I came back. Why? Because I knew if I didn't, I'd never be able to look you in the eyes and say I was here for you and only you. Doesn't matter, Jimin said. The damage is done. There was a long silence. Then Jungkook said something so quiet Jimin almost missed it. You can hate me, he whispered. You have every right. But I didn't come back to be forgiven. I came back because the version of me that lived without you was a ghost. Jimin closed his eyes. One tear fell. Then another. You always say the right words, he murmured. But they're never enough to rebuild what you broke. I know, Jungkook said. But maybe, they're enough to start over. Jimin turned to him. You want me to forget everything? No, Jungkook said. I want you to remember it all. And stay anyway. I can't promise that, Jimin said. I don't even know if I want to. Then stay uncertain, Jungkook said. Stay angry. Just stay. Outside, the clouds had cleared. For the first time in days, the sky turned gold. But inside, the wreckage remained. Truth had been dragged into the light. And with it, a wound still gaping, still bleeding. Jimin didn't move. He didn't forgive. But he didn't leave, and maybe, for now, that was enough. I saw the way you looked at him. Taehyung's voice came from the shadows of the hallway, soft but lethal. Jimin stopped mid-step, his body still vibrating from the confrontation at the theater. His throat was sore from holding back words he didn't dare speak out loud anymore. You shouldn't be here, Jimin said. And yet I always am, Taehyung replied, stepping into the light. When you're breaking. Jimin sighed, rubbing his temples. Not tonight. I can't do this tonight. That's what you said the night he left too, Taehyung said quietly. The words struck deeper than any accusation. Don't rewrite my pain for me, Jimin snapped. You weren't there when I couldn't get out of bed. When I forgot how to breathe without him. I was, Taehyung said, his voice rising. You just didn't see me. You only ever see him. Jimin turned slowly. His eyes were rimmed red, his expression torn between fury and heartbreak. What do you want from me, Taehyung? A confession? A thank you for loving me in the background while I destroyed myself over someone who vanished? Taehyung stepped closer, hands shaking. I want you to stop letting him reopen wounds you barely survived. You don't think I know that? Jimin cried. You don't think I hate myself every time I look at him and feel something instead of nothing? Taehyung grabbed Jimin's wrist. Not harshly, but desperately. You're not broken for loving him, he said. You're breaking because you won't let go. Jimin pulled away. And what if I don't want to? The question hung between them, trembling. Taehyung's voice dropped to a whisper. Then you'll lose me. Jimin stared at him. Truly stared. The weight of that possibility slammed into his chest with brutal clarity. You're asking me to choose, Jimin said. I've been waiting for you to, Taehyung replied. A door creaked behind them. Jungkook stood there, having heard enough. You don't get to corner him like this, he said sharply. Taehyung laughed bitterly. Here comes the savior. Jungkook moved forward. This is between me and Jimin. No, Taehyung snapped. This is between the man who shattered him and the man who stayed. Jimin raised his voice, trembling. Stop. Both of you. Neither listened. You walked out when he needed you most, Taehyung said. And now you think a few tortured apologies earn you a second chance. I never said I deserved one, Jungkook replied. But neither do you. Taehyung stepped closer, eyes blazing. At least I didn't disappear. Jungkook's fists clenched. At least I'm not hiding behind friendship because I'm too afraid to admit I love him. The room went silent. Jimin's breath caught. Taehyung didn't deny it. You love me, Jimin whispered. Taehyung's jaw tightened. I always have. Jimin staggered back as if struck. Then why didn't you ever tell me? Because you were in love with someone else, Taehyung said. And I didn't want to be another loss you carried. Jungkook looked away, guilt shadowing his face. I never asked for a war, Jimin said, voice breaking. I just wanted the pain to stop. And you think he can give you that? Taehyung asked. Look at you. You're unraveling. Jungkook stepped forward, his voice raw. I won't leave again. Taehyung shook his head. You don't get to promise that. I already did, Jungkook said. To myself. To him. I'll stay, even if he never forgives me. Jimin closed his eyes, tears spilling freely now. You're both tearing me apart, he whispered. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy with everything unsaid, everything undone. Taehyung took a step back. If you choose him, he said softly, don't come looking for me when he breaks you again. He turned and walked away. Jimin didn't stop him. Jungkook moved closer, tentative. Jimin, don't, Jimin murmured. I don't know who I am when you're here. Jungkook swallowed hard. Then let me stay while you find out. Jimin leaned against the wall, collapsing inward. I don't trust myself anymore. Jungkook didn't touch him. He simply stayed. Silent. Present. And in that fragile stillness, Jimin realized something terrifying. For the first time in years, the person who hurt him the most was also the only one who felt like home. You're lying again. The words left Jimin's mouth before he even realized he had spoken them. They echoed through the apartment like a sharp slap, landing between them with the force of a wound reopened. Jungkook froze in the doorway, his backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes heavy, as if he'd already lived this scene before. Jimin stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding a crumpled piece of paper in his trembling hands. His knuckles were white. The paper, an itinerary, outlined a flight booked to Osaka. One way. Departure in 2 days. Jungkook's name. Paid in full. No mention of it ever crossed his lips. I was going to tell you, Jungkook said, his voice a low murmur. When? Jimin snapped. When I woke up and found your side of the bed empty again. It's not like that. Then tell me what it is like. Because I'm running out of interpretations. Jungkook walked slowly into the room, setting his backpack down with a soft thud. He didn't try to reach for him. He had learned not to do that. Not anymore. I got an offer, he said. Choreography lead for a tour. 3 months. You weren't even going to ask if I'd go with you? Jimin's voice cracked. Or did you assume I'd just follow again, like a shadow that's too loyal to leave? I didn't think you'd want to come, Jungkook said, quiet. I didn't even know if I'd say yes. But you booked the flight. Jungkook looked down, the silence between them growing unbearable. I panicked, he confessed. Everything here, with you, it's been too good. And I don't trust good things. Jimin dropped the paper, letting it flutter to the floor like ash. He walked past Jungkook, into the living room, pacing like he was trying to outrun the chaos in his chest. You don't get to sabotage this, he said. Not after all the hell you put me through just to come back. I'm not sabotaging anything, Jungkook said. I'm scared. Of what? Jimin turned on him, furious. Of being happy? Of actually choosing something and staying? Yes. Jungkook shouted. Yes, I'm fucking terrified of that. Because the last time I let myself be happy, I lost everything. I lost you. You didn't lose me, Jimin said, voice trembling. You left me. Jungkook closed his eyes. I was broken, and I wasn't. Jimin barked. You act like you were the only one bleeding. But I had to clean up your mess. I had to piece myself together while you got to disappear into someone else's arms and rebuild your life without me. Jungkook moved closer, expression crumpling. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Then stop making new ones, Jimin snapped. Stop packing your bags every time things get real. I didn't know how to ask you to come, Jungkook admitted. Because a part of me still believes I don't deserve you. Jimin's anger began to shift, softening just slightly at the edges. He dropped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I don't want to keep doing this, he said, voice muffled. I don't want to keep fighting for scraps of honesty. Jungkook knelt in front of him, eyes wide with something close to pleading. Then let me be better, he whispered. Please. I'll cancel the flight. I'll stay. Just, don't shut me out. Jimin looked up at him, tears glistening in his eyes. I'm tired, Jungkook, he said. Tired of being a chapter you can close when things get complicated. You're not a chapter, Jungkook said. You're the whole damn book. Before Jimin could respond, a knock shattered the moment. It was rapid. Urgent. Jimin and Jungkook exchanged a glance before Jimin stood and walked to the door. He opened it and froze. Taehyung stood on the threshold, his face pale, his breathing erratic. "You need to come with me," he said. "Now. What's going on?" Jimin asked, already feeling the air shift. Taehyung glanced at Jungkook, then back at Jimin. "It's Seokjin." Jungkook stiffened instantly. "What about him?" he asked, stepping forward. Taehyung hesitated. "He's in the hospital. Overdose." The room dropped into silence, so sudden it felt like sound had died. Jungkook's face went slack. Jimin could see the blood drain from it. "No," Jungkook whispered. "That's not possible. I saw him last week. He left a letter," Taehyung said. "It mentioned you." Jimin grabbed his coat without thinking. "I'm going with you," he said. Taehyung nodded. Jungkook remained rooted to the floor. Jimin looked back at him. "Are you coming?" Jungkook didn't move. I don't know if I can." "You have to," Jimin said softly. "This might be your only chance to say goodbye." Outside, the sky had begun to darken again, clouds rolling in with the same quiet menace that always preceded chaos. In the car, none of them spoke. The silence was louder than grief, louder than guilt. At the hospital, under the sterile lights and the hum of machines, they found Seokjin unconscious, tubes in his arms, monitors beeping steadily beside his bed. A sealed envelope waited, with Jungkook's name on it. Jungkook's hands trembled as he picked it up. He didn't open it right away. He just stared at it, like it held a bomb. "Read it," Jimin whispered. Jungkook slowly broke the seal. Inside, Seokjin's handwriting filled the page. No preamble. No apology. Just one line that shattered them all. "I lied to protect you, Jungkook." He wasn't sick. He was silenced. Jungkook blinked, confused. What the hell does that mean? Taehyung's eyes narrowed. Who is he? Jungkook slowly sat down, heart pounding. His voice was hoarse when he said it. "My brother." Jimin froze. "You told me he died from illness." Jungkook looked up, his eyes haunted. "That's what I was always told." But Seokjin knew something else. Jimin felt the floor tilt beneath him. A new truth had entered the room. A truth wrapped in silence, grief, and a secret buried for years. None of them realized the war they thought was over had only just begun. "You're telling me your brother didn't die from illness?" Jimin's voice cut through the silence like a blade dulled by disbelief. "That everything you told me was a lie?" Jungkook sat frozen beside Seokjin's hospital bed, the letter still in his hand, his knuckles ghost white. The walls of the room, sterile and quiet, seemed to close in, amplifying every beat of the heart monitor that ticked on beside Seokjin's unconscious body. "I didn't lie," Jungkook said, his voice barely a whisper. "I told you what I believed." Taehyung stood in the corner, arms crossed, jaw set. "Then why would Seokjin write that? Why now?" Jungkook swallowed hard, eyes not leaving the letter. "I don't know. But if what he's saying is true, then someone wanted your brother gone," Taehyung finished grimly. Jimin ran both hands through his hair, pacing. "This is insane. Who would cover something like that up? Why?" Jungkook's eyes finally lifted, meeting Jimin's. And when he spoke, his voice trembled with something more than fear. "My family." Jimin stopped pacing. "My father," Jungkook added, as if each syllable cost him oxygen. "He always controlled everything. Image. Appearances. I was the golden son, the prodigy. My brother, he was always the mistake. Brilliant, but unstable. Emotional. He talked back. He questioned everything." Taehyung's brows furrowed. "You think your father, I think," Jungkook interrupted, "he'd do anything to protect our name." Jimin sat down slowly on the edge of the windowsill, eyes locked on Jungkook like he was watching a stranger unspool before him. "You never told me he even had issues," Jimin said. "Mental health. Anything." Jungkook looked ashamed. "Because I never really saw it. He was older than me, always kept me away from that part of his life. I only started asking questions after he died, but my father shut it all down. Said it was private. That he'd been sick and he didn't want me burdened by the details." "Jesus," Jimin muttered, rubbing his face. "And Seokjin knew?" Taehyung asked. Jungkook nodded. "He and my brother, they were close. Too close, I think, for my father's liking." Jimin's head snapped toward him. "Wait. You mean I think they were together, Jungkook said. I never had proof, but there were moments, conversations I wasn't meant to overhear. And now this. He lifted the letter again, voice shaking. He wasn't sick. He was silenced. Taehyung stepped forward, jaw clenched. That's not just a confession. That's a warning. Jimin looked at him. A warning for who? For Jungkook, Taehyung said. For all of us. The door opened suddenly, and a nurse entered to check Seokjin's vitals. None of them moved. The room felt suspended in another reality. When she left, the door clicked shut like a verdict. What if your father finds out you know? Jimin asked softly. Jungkook let out a bitter laugh. He probably already does. My family has a way of knowing things before they happen. And now you're back in Korea, Taehyung said. With headlines, scandals, all of it. You've made yourself visible again. Jungkook turned to Jimin. This is why I left. This is what I was trying to protect you from. You didn't protect me, Jimin said, voice flat. You just left me in the dark. Jungkook's expression collapsed. I know. The silence that followed was jagged. Jimin stood and walked to Seokjin's side. He looked at the man who had once been his teacher, who had whispered encouragements into his ear when his knees trembled under stage lights, who had smiled softly when Jimin fell during rehearsals and told him that pain was just part of the art. Why now? He whispered. Why say something now, when it's almost too late? Behind him, Jungkook stared at the floor. Because guilt doesn't expire. And secrets, they eventually rot their way out. Hours passed. Jungkook stayed by Seokjin's bed while Jimin and Taehyung stepped outside for air. The hospital lobby was quiet, dimly lit with vending machines humming quietly. Jimin leaned against the wall, arms folded, his thoughts buzzing. His unraveling, Jimin said. I can see it happening. Taehyung nodded. And he's dragging you with him. Jimin looked at him. You think I should walk away? I think, Taehyung said carefully, you've already given him more than most people get. Jimin's eyes didn't leave the floor. Then why does it still feel like not enough? Taehyung exhaled slowly. Because part of you still loves him. And part of you still thinks you can fix him. And I can't, Jimin said. No, Taehyung agreed. You can't. But you can choose whether or not his chaos becomes your destruction. Jimin looked up at him. Why are you still here? Taehyung's voice softened. Because I love you. Even when you don't love yourself. Before Jimin could respond, Jungkook appeared at the end of the hallway, expression pale, hands trembling. He's awake, Jungkook said. He asked for me. Alone. Jimin nodded slowly. Go. In the room, Seokjin's voice was weak, raspy. He looked at Jungkook through tired eyes, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. You opened the letter, he said. Jungkook sat beside him, gripping the bedrail. What did you mean? Seokjin looked away, tears slipping down his cheek. They threatened me. Years ago. Said if I didn't disappear from your brother's life, they'd ruin me. And him. Jungkook's eyes burned. And my brother? Seokjin shook his head slowly. He tried to fight back. He was brave. Too brave. They said he overdosed. But I was there. I saw him. It wasn't an accident. Jungkook covered his mouth with his hand. They killed him. I couldn't prove it, Seokjin whispered. And I was too scared. I let them bury him with lies. Jungkook leaned forward, forehead resting against the bedrail. I'm so sorry, Seokjin said. I should have protected him. I should have told you everything. You loved him, Jungkook said, voice broken. With everything I had, Seokjin whispered. Just like you love Jimin. Jungkook sat back, tears streaking his face. Don't let them do to you what they did to us, Seokjin said. Fight. Even if it costs everything. Jungkook nodded slowly, a fire beginning to flicker in his eyes. I will. Outside the room, Jimin watched him through the window. And for the first time, he didn't see the boy who left him. He saw a man walking toward war. And he didn't know whether to follow or run. The press conference was scheduled for noon, but the tension had started hours earlier. The theater was dimmed, its grand chandeliers casting fractured gold across the velvet seats. Journalists sat like wolves in waiting, phones in hand, questions already sharpened. A spotlight burned over the stage where Jungkook stood behind a lone microphone. No notes. No script. Jimin watched from the wings, his chest tight. His entire body felt like a taut wire, moments from snapping. Taehyung sat behind him, silent, unreadable. Jungkook looked out over the crowd, his expression resolute, yet bruised by the weight of truth. "My name is Jungkook," he began, voice steady. "And this is not a press conference. It's a confession." The silence became a vacuum. He continued. "Years ago, my brother died under what was labeled a medical condition. It wasn't. He was silenced by people in power, my family included, for who he was and who he loved. Flashes from cameras exploded like gunshots. My brother was in a relationship with Seokjin, a man who has only recently awakened from a coma after an attempted suicide caused by the same pressure and fear that killed my brother. They were erased from the narrative to protect a legacy I no longer believe in." More flashes. Gasps. Phones lifted. "The moment went viral in real time. I left Korea because I couldn't carry the weight of lies. I returned because the truth refused to stay buried." He glanced toward the wings. His eyes found Jimin's, and because someone reminded me that love, no matter how messy or broken, is worth living for. Jimin's breath caught. He wanted to run to him. He wanted to hide. He wanted everything and nothing all at once. "I will no longer be affiliated with my family's brand, nor will I allow them to control the narrative of the people they tried to erase. I will fight for the truth. Even if it costs me everything." A pause. A breath. "And if I disappear again, let it be known I didn't run. I chose to burn the mask instead." He stepped back from the microphone. The room exploded in questions, but Jungkook walked off stage without answering a single one. He didn't look back. Jimin met him at the bottom of the stairs. "You just blew up your life," he whispered. "I finally made it mine." Jungkook replied. They didn't touch. Didn't kiss. They simply stood there, chests rising and falling, letting the air between them speak louder than words. Taehyung approached them both. His voice was low. Controlled. But not cold. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," he said to Jungkook. Jungkook nodded. "Thank you." Taehyung turned to Jimin. "You already know where I stand." Jimin's throat tightened. "I know. And if you ever need someone to catch you when he forgets how," Taehyung added, with a faint smile, "you know where to find me." Then he left. Alone, Jungkook and Jimin stood outside the theater as the sun began to set. The air was cooler now, tinged with spring. "So," Jimin said, watching the sky, "what happens now?" Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He looked up, letting the wind ruffle his hair. Letting himself breathe. "I don't know," he admitted. "But this time, I want to find out with you." Jimin didn't smile. Not quite. But his fingers reached out and found Jungkook's hand. They stood there, two boys who had once broken each other, now holding the jagged pieces together. Not to erase the past, but to honor it. To live with the scars. To finally stop running behind them. The city continued ahead of them, the unknown, but for the first time in years, neither of them looked away. And in that silence, tender, earned, complete, there was peace. Not perfect. Not permanent. But real, and that was enough. The end.